Okay. Good enough. That's going to be the tagline for our podcast going forward. Okay. That's good enough.
That should be our name. We should just change the name to
Welcome to the Good Enough Guys.
Yeah. You got to do the welcome to the, it's good enough. You have to do the, it's good enough. You know, you're actually pretend like you're actually working on it. Pretend that you're not using ChatGPT to write the scripts.
No, I don't need to pretend about that. This is how I do it, baby.
Welcome to the show, where AI takes the flow. Lee and Rich on the mic.
Welcome to the AI Guys podcast, where we make artificial intelligence easy to understand for everyone. I'm your host, Lee Dixon, and as always, I'm joined by the man who thinks AI tools are yesterday's news, Rich Swire. How are you doing today, man?
Doing great, man.
This is
fantastic.
Episode 3 or 4, where we just exist in a void right now since our new office move.
Yeah, I like it. I like being in the void.
No distractions. Is that the thing?
I like it. It's kind of like it's video gamey. It's kind of like it's like a virtual world, metaverse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think going to make the transition from us going from what we doing the work to an AI eventually.
Right.
People won't notice.
Yeah, exactly. If we can keep a black background, although mine seems darker and more ominous than yours today. I don't know why. But yeah, we just have our floating heads here and just let AI do the rest. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's when the episodes get really good.
Can't wait.
Well, today we're actually going to be focusing on bringing up some differences between current AI tools that are available on the market and actually looking at AI kind of agent platforms and those differences in the approaches. So obviously there might be a moment or two where we do some shameless plugging as far as what we do here at Rhea with our agent platform, but obviously we're coming from a space of knowledge and we just want to help our listeners kind of understand the differences between tools and platforms and when to really kind of look to use one or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, this is our bread and butter, so we understand it. I probably as well as anybody, just because we live and breathe it every day. But I do think it's important to kind of reiterate and isolate kind of where we see a lot of the AI development, especially for businesses who are looking to deploy AI agents moving forward. I still think there's quite a bit of confusion. You know, we see it in our day-to-day when we're talking to clients or prospects on what the limitation of these existing tools are and how do those evolve into more agentic, style solutions. And that's a wide range, more wider than what most people think, right? And so I think to level set this real easily would be to kind of, and we did an episode about this before, but I'll just restate kind of the obvious, which is there's really two big buckets that are kind of forming as what companies are adopting when it comes to AI. The first bucket, which is pretty obvious, is tools. Mm-hmm. And I'll just throw everything in that bucket. Okay. Whether it's ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, you're using some sort of like software tool that's on your desktop and it's mostly you as a single user using it. And also you can also throw a bunch of other tools in there like generating songs, generating videos, like Suno. And, there's probably 1,000 tools out there. And then of course you have coding tools like GitHub Copilot or Lovable or Replit.
Make, I guess, is more so on the automation side.
Anything and everything that's basically a tool, like a hammer and screwdriver type of a mentality of building something that is AI, right? Or using an AI model directly, like a ChatGPT being the king of the hill. So, and that's absolutely 100% going to always be there, right? Everybody's going to want to use AI to be creative, to generate code, to ask questions and get responses. But then it starts to get a little in the gray area when you start talking about agents, because ChatGPT and other companies are also talking about agents, right? And what they're talking about from their perspective is giving their tools like a ChatGPT the ability to go out and access
have agency
and have agency and do certain tasks on behalf of the single user. And I think that's like the most important point that I want to make is that there's a tremendous difference between me as a user, using a model like OpenAI or Claude or anything else, and using that as a tool and giving it agency and doing something. So for example, I can tell ChatGPT either now or in the short-term future, hey, go out and book me a ticket on, Expedia.com. And so it has the ability to go load a browser on my computer, maybe go through certain tasks, and then eventually find a way to bring me back in to put my credit card in and then go and book a ticket. Or I could ask it to go do research, come back and bring me a report, right? This is the power of what I call a single user point of view type experience. Now, that's awesome, and that's going to continue to evolve. But one of the great things that companies like OpenAI and Google and others have done is they've said, you know what? We understand that this is a single user type experience and that you're going to want to embed this same type of functionality or expand this and use this same type of functionality in your applications or in your third-party use cases. So, for example, when you go to a company and the company says, well, I would love to be able to have an agent that acts like a sales rep that goes out and reaches out to leads or prospects and qualifies them and goes and updates my CRM. Okay, well, that's where you go from a tool-based AI approach into what I would consider like more of an autonomous or an agent that is now unchained from that single user experience. So there's no human sitting in front of a computer telling the AI what to do.
Yeah, you're no longer using the screwdriver. You're giving it to a subcontractor and saying, time to build the house. And it says,
right.
Okay,
and it's actually happening autonomously, maybe even triggered by some sort of event inside of a system. And it almost becomes kind of, like I said, unchanged or untethered from that desktop experience, right? And so, this is where you mentioned a few things, but this is where workflow engines, platforms, frameworks, this is that world, right? So let's talk about that world because that's the most important component and the differences between what a tool can do and what a platform / framework / workflow engine, however you want to label these different entities that live in this bucket, do. So,
well, one thing too, Rich, right before you jump into it, I think where we're starting to notice a lot of the blending of those worlds, right? Like you said, understanding tool versus autonomous and all of that. But one of the things I've noticed just explaining to some clients is that a tool is going to enhance your capability, but still requires you to drive the interaction. Like that's kind of at the most baseline where we see that happening. So when someone comes to us and says, well, I'm thinking about building X, why not just buy a point solution that's out there versus having this? It's going to, you're going to have a toolbox that at some point needs more than one tool to get your job done. So why not buy the toolbox, but also hire the contractors and everything else that now essentially you just tell them what work needs to be done.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, your point is another way of looking at it, which is a good point, which is, like a ChatGPT experience is me using it and I'm experiencing it. But if you said, I want to deploy this and have hundreds of thousands of my customers to use it, they're not going to install ChatGPT and build out a custom GPT and expose it to 1,000 people. You're going to build a completely different experience that is still powered by the same engine. And that's where platforms, frameworks come into play, which is like this idea that, okay, now I want to be able to program or tell this AI a specific task, a specific role, train it on 1 or a million documents, depending on how much information that you have, proprietary information that you want to install into this AI. And then I want it to talk to other people. I don't want it to talk to me necessarily. I want it to talk to my prospects, my vendors, my employees,
my software that's out there,
right, or my software. Exactly.
Yeah.
So now you're basically facing a completely different problem. And this is where we typically see most of our clients and prospects in this kind of void where they don't know what to do next. So they're infatuated with ChatGPT experience. They love they might have even started experimenting with building out what are called GPTs, which are just like little, basically the ChatGPT experience, but you kind of package it. You kind of put your own instructions in there. You upload a few documents.
Single instance environment. That's where it's going to operate.
And you're talking to a GPT. So I might create a GPT that says, like, help me write a contract for my customer. And I might train it on my old contracts. I might give it some instructional prompting. And it's really just more of a kind of like an easy way to kind of save your prompts and save your training for a GPT. Although it's very limited in what it can do, right? You can only upload so many documents. You can only do so much before, and it doesn't necessarily, track and understand a history of conversations beyond maybe a few days. So it's very much like, and again, an enhancement to a tool set. But when you that's where they really catch the bug though, for building out these agentic type behavior where you're saying, hey, I uploaded a few documents and I created this really kick-ass prompt and it's doing exactly what I want it to do. And now they're stuck. They're like, okay, how do I take this and then give it to have somebody else talk to it, or have my
Yeah.
customers talk to it, or have my employees talk to it and use it. And that's where you start to get into this evolution cycle of, okay, I need to basically start thinking about how do I deploy what I've created here, or what I believe to be in my mind, whether it be they took the time to build it as a GPT, or they actually are just thinking about taking those prompts that they're using and evolving it. How do you go from here? So now you really are facing this idea of, I've got to evolve into a platform and or framework and or build this out myself. So let me kind of distinguish between what I would consider the definitions of these different things that you hear about. So when you think about a framework, really what you're talking about is that's something more of a plug and play, module based, maybe some code, maybe there's some pre-plugged in kind of applications that you can work off of, but it's primarily for a developer, right? A developer is using a framework to kind of give them a head start and give them some structure on how to best practices connect to these LLMs and start building some of this functionality. And a lot of frameworks that are out there, most of are provided by kind of who you'd expect it to be provided by, right? Microsoft has theirs, Google has a framework. There's other frameworks like LangChain that are open source. And this is great for a developer to kind of get started if they are going to basically want to build their own kind of application and so forth. But where frameworks kind of start and stop are basically saying like, all right, well, here's kind of some, APIs, or here's some code base that you can use. Here's some basic starting points. Maybe I've created an abstraction layer that makes it a little easier for you to talk to multiple models. But what we've seen, what our experience has been, is these frameworks typically make things more complicated than they need to be. And they also, to some degree, are very, very oriented toward what I would call the pre-AI developer. And what I mean by pre-AI developer is somebody who actually went to, learned how to code, right? Like you're coding on kind of in the traditional manner, and you're a software developer. You're not a hacker, business guy. You're not the actual guy that or girl that I just described, which is I'm using ChatGPT and I've created a prompt and I've uploaded some documents and I've got it working the way I want it. That person is most likely not a developer. They're the new developer. They're the post-AI developer. They're like people like you and others in the that have become like very efficient inside of the ChatGPT world, but they never they didn't learn how to code C++ or JavaScript or anything like that in the traditional manner. And so like this is exactly the person that we believe is kind of the new wave of where things are headed. Whereas people call it vibe coding. We did an episode on that, but I would call it like the post-AI developer, who still includes kind of old school developers, is a completely different approach where they are looking at it from a business perspective, needing to solve a business problem. And actually, they're the ones that are most qualified to create the prompts because they're the ones who understand the business. So evolving into going from framework to platform makes it more robust. So when I say platform, which is in the business we're in, what we're really saying is not only is there a framework that's underlining, because these platforms are also built on frameworks, but these platforms provide much more of a very lightweight UI experience where a non-developer or a new AI developer can come in and prompt or use this build out AI agents without a lot of code, or zero code for that matter.
Yeah. Well, one thing too I want to touch on. I mean, this is where, for a lot of our listeners who are technically savvy, but for those that maybe aren't, this is where the argument that I think you start to see out inside of organizations come from, well, I'll just build that with RAG, versus, oh, well, what do I need this platform for? Oh, we need the platform because there's going to be scenarios where we're not necessarily just focusing on a knowledge base or an internal deployment where it's call and response. It's like it needs to actively be able to like assign jobs and execute those tasks versus like ask and receive. And so that's where I've seen some maybe disconnect with, like you said, some of the visionaries inside of a business versus the traditional developers and coders, where they look at platforms maybe not as a threat, but as kind of like well, we can do this anyways. And for us, we always kind of have to go through a re-education process where we're like, well, yeah, you can, but why do that?
Yeah. So the biggest challenge that what I'd call pre-AI developers have, including myself, is that you have to reimagine what it means to build something in AI, right? It's completely different. And so when you have somebody like a developer, who obviously most developers believe they can build anything because they can kind of they're very familiar with the tool set And AI has actually made it quite easy for them to build things faster. So nothing seems unachievable, right? But when they say something, for example, in your case, like, oh, we could build this with RAG, what they're really saying is that they've successfully either played around with or built out a prototype where they've connected to a large language model using, and using RAG and connecting to like some sort of maybe third-party application or database. And they've kind of merged these two worlds in some sort of, kind of hacked together solution, which RAG is essentially a way for AI to leverage LLMs, right? Leverage the power of like an OpenAI or a Gemini or a Claude, but then also connect to a third-party app or data source and bring those two kind of worlds together through some sort of interface, whether it be a live chat, et cetera. And that is a very simple use case kind of thing. Now, take that and compartmentalize it for a second. And then let's talk about that as I kind of like, I could do this very easily type mentality to what a platform provides. So I'll just break it down at a high level, and then we can dive into each one if we want to. But the first thing that comes to mind from an enterprise perspective, when you kind of underestimate what it requires to build out a robust, enterprise level agentic system or agentic solution, is security. So first and foremost, okay, great. You're building this RAG. Okay, well, what access are you using to connect to these third-party sources, and where is that being managed, and how is that being authorized? And so now that person's like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. It's not just my username, password. I got to be able to support many different access controls when it comes to this, because now you're talking about like when you're saying, oh, just RAG into my HubSpot or my Salesforce. Okay, well,
like everybody says, just RAG into it.
Are you going to give it full access, even delete, even edit? Like, okay, then what happens when, so you can automatically see.
The governance piece is something that is
the
huge.
Short-sightedness of a developer is like, oh, I could hack something together and show you a really cool demo. Okay, great. But put that demo and make it live, right? Okay, so security is like the number one thing. So, okay, is your, cute little RAG system compliant with SOC 2? Is it HIPAA compliant? Is it securing that data at rest and in transit? Or did you just kind of hack together something with open source? Like, let's be serious. And then the second thing is scale. Okay, it's cool that you did this little demo, kind of put together some code, and you might even use ChatGPT to write the JavaScript to do it all. And OpenAI has a really robust API. It's not complicated to deal with, but at scale. Okay, now what if you want to be able to have 100 agents or 1,000 agents? How are you managing those? Are you going to just have 1,000 hard-coded RAGs living in your, and then what happens if somebody like you or another business stakeholder wants to come in there and build an agent out? And they're not going to know how to build a RAG, or you're not going to want to get bothered by them. Hey, I need to build another agent. Can you go copy your code and redeploy it? No, you want to have a platform that allows you to go in and easily create these agents.
Or God forbid you want to update what's already out there live in the space versus taking it down and making it unusable for however long it takes.
That's a great example. So let's say you do deploy something that's hard coded, that's ragged out, and then you have your business stakeholder over here who's testing it, and they go, oh, hey, I need to update the instructional prompt. Oh, well, only the developer could do that because it's sitting in this hard coded world. They can't do it through a platform. So what platforms allow you to do is it extracts that layer. It disconnects that layer of all the hardline, complicated technology layer, which is abstracted, and now you have this beautiful, UI that you can go in there and update instructions, add access control, take away access control if you need to adjust it. Connect
audit who's doing what,
look at all the look at all the log files, be able to audit, because that's another component. Like, let's say something bad happens, and then you need to go back and say, I need to look at all the conversations that happened with this agent in the last 6 days. Oh, and you go to your developer, hey, can you pull up the log files? And they're like, oh, I didn't really build any logging. I just thought you wanted to have this cool little connector live chat thing or whatever.
I never just wanted me to get this up and running.
Yeah, I didn't save the conversations. And you're like, okay, well, that's kind of something that's important. So this adds up and adds up. So you have like 50 core features that a platform brings to the table on day one, including all these things we're talking about: scale, security, compliance, logging, ability for, your users, your business stakeholders to easily upload documents into the training, update the instructional prompting, all this without having to bother the developers. So what we always see is like developers are somewhat usually kind of like, I don't really want to deal with a platform, because what they think is, oh, this is going to, kind of override or displace me. But the reality is the opposite. This gets you to a level set where you're able to deploy some pretty powerful things, and all the custom stuff that you need to build on top of that platform is stuff that you actually are going to that's unique to the business that you're actually doing. So you're not wasting your time building all the core functionality. You're getting to stage one pretty quickly.
Yes.
And I use the analogy, like if you were to go back in time 20 years, and you were talking to a developer when the internet and websites were kind of the new thing, it'd be like trying to sell a developer WordPress. And and they go, well, why can't I just build this with Notepad? Like, yeah, you could build a website on Notepad.
But
you could
why?
sit there
Yeah.
and hand code HTML code and CSS code or you could use a platform, or you could extend that platform to the people who actually are designers of the website. And you can focus your energy on building out the plugins or building out the API hooks that allow WordPress to do more. But you're not going to want to sit there and build out a manual website. And then, and every developer who's actually been around as long as I have knows this exact conversation. You get an email from some business person, hey, can you update the website? I need to change the homepage to say this, not that. So as a developer, do you really want to have that email and be like, oh God, I got to go in and I got to update them? No. What you really want as a developer, if you're a smart developer, say, oh, well, you could do that, Sam. Log into WordPress, log into this WordPress platform.
Change your tagline.
Go to the website, and then there's a WYSIWYG, and then you change it just like you change it in Microsoft Word.
Sure.
You don't need to know code. You don't need to know development. So the two things happen there. You empowered the business user, in this case, the marketing person, to update the website, and you kept them out of your world, and you can focus on the hard stuff, the development stuff. And that's exactly what an AI platform does, metaphorically, is that you want to have the people that actually are wanting to update the training, wanting to update the instructional prompting, testing, all this stuff. You don't want to deal with that stuff. You want to be able to have a platform, though, that still supports what you want, which is, I still want APIs. I still want webhooks. I still want to be able to build out custom solutions if I need to and have an SDK to do that. So you still have the power of doing RAG and doing all these other things if you want to do it. But you can sleep at night because the platform is managing all those other components that are making sure that you're secure, scalable, that you can delegate all the stuff that you need to delegate to the stakeholder, to the business user of that application. And also, it's going to continue to build and grow functionality that makes it super easy. Native integration is another component of what these platforms have. Yeah. So, like, for example, in our platform, we natively integrate that does SMS, email, live chat, voice. So the developer doesn't have to worry about that. They don't have to sit there and go, oh, I got to build all the code that manages the transactions between Twilio, in the case of SMS, and my AI agent. And I got to, oh, shoot, I've got to also, now my client or my customer or my user is saying they want to change the area code of the phone number they're using. Oh, I got to go there and log into Twilio. No, you don't have to do all that. Right. Platforms allow you to do that very easily in a singular place. And again, makes just life easier, not just for the business and the business user, but more importantly for the developer. And I think this is going to be a little bit of time for developers to understand this, and we have this, and I'm not just going to focus on Rhea, for example, for this episode. Let's just talk I'll just make one more case. And another metaphorical example is Lovable. So like they're recently in the news, they raised a bunch of money, and they're one of the top 2 or 3, no code, zero code platforms, even though they allow you to get in there and get in the code. But with Lovable, I can prompt and build out full baked applications. So a developer would look at that and go, oh, I got to deal with this. Like I could code it. Why can't I just code all this myself? Yeah, you could. But if where the money is going and where the world is going is that these applications are getting a lot of money and a lot of attention for a reason, because it's opening up the world to somebody being able to build things faster and bigger and better using AI and not being slowed down by the old ways. But I can still go into Lovable, which we use here all the time. I can still toggle to the code, and I can still mess with the code. So I think people have to understand that this is the new world. The new world is I can still dig deep and still have the ability to do what I want to do programmatically, but I have this kind of Copilot-esque new thing that's going to do a lot of the work for me, do a lot of the heavy lifting, quite honestly, that I don't want to do, or that necessarily that I don't have the time to do, and get me to the finish line a lot quicker. And whether it's a platform that for AI agents like Rhea, or for coding like Lovable, this is the new world. And I think it'll take some time, but everybody has to get on this kind of new path, if you will.
Yeah, well, to kind of button up what we're talking about a little bit today and leave it on, a high note, when we're talking about agent platforms and like the scalability of it, there's SMBs and, small businesses, or even, just smaller outfits in general that look at tools as, well, I only really need to do this one thing. So the tool makes sense because maybe it's a lower point of entry. It's less thinking that they have to do, as far as like it's out of the box and at least does what they want. Where I find us always kind of coming back to when we have these kind of conversations with clients, or even just people on our networks, it does come back to, at some point you're going to want to do more. Most businesses, and I think most business owners, are never like, I'm completely content with where I am and I never want to do more than this. There's always going to be a reason to iterate and go beyond the capabilities of what a tool typically has.
100%.
So if you're already looking at AI from a position of you want to use it, yes, a tool might get you there quickly now, but will be limited. Having the ability to already look at a platform to deploy one singular solution, but knowing that you have the capabilities of doing more with it, I think needs to be something that's talked about more with a lot of businesses, because they see this as just swipe a credit card, get something now because we need it. And again, that's probably another conversation that developers get really upset about, of like, oh, why do we waste money on one more piece of tech? Having a platform to say, well, I've deployed my sales agent, or I've deployed a support agent with a RAG and all of this stuff built in, but now we can share this with the other departments, and other teams can now start leveraging this, and everyone becomes more effective because a platform is built for scale.
Yeah, I still think we see, and we did an episode on this on the way back, and I think we talked a little about it, but I still think that there is this great misdirection that's happening, and it's probably going to be an 18 to 24 month realization. And of course, a lot of this is self-serving, but a lot of this is driven our thesis on why we built Rhea. And there's like three things that I believe is truly happening and what's driving the current adoption of AI. And I think these are the things that, like any early adoption market, are going to have to face. And there's going to be a reckoning. And there still might, maybe it's not a dramatic shift or a realization, but in my opinion, there will be a calling. So like the first thing, which is to your point, is I do think that both from a developer perspective, but from an entrepreneur innovator perspective, there is too much of people trying to either extrapolate the old software mindset to the AI world, and or trying to rebuild the old software ecosystem through an AI lens. And what I mean by that is twofold. There's a lot of SaaS companies out there that built SaaS products and are just kind of like shoving in a plugin or doing a little quick AI add-on, and not holistically looking at an AI first overwrite, but they're just trying to enter into the market, tiptoe into the market by, we have got AI, and they just kind of like slap it on the side of their overbloated SaaS sticker product.
Bam, done.
Salesforce is a great example of that. Like Salesforce's AI just absolutely blows. And why does it blow? Because Salesforce blows. So like you can't, it's like lipstick on a pig. The other element of this, they
haven't caught strays like this in a while.
Yeah,
so
they'll never be a sponsor of the show ever. But if they wanted to, but the second part of that,
let's help you build your AI a little bit better, right?
The second part is all the innovation that's happening. Like you talk about these kind of out of the box AI solutions, or these single point solutions. Like, look at me, I created a CSR, or a support AI agent. And the problem there, again, those people will probably be very successful because there's a market for that. The problem there, though, is at the end of the day, as you mentioned, they're trying to package it in this very small thing, and now they're expecting, by the nature of that model, they're expecting that people out there are going to go and buy 10 AI solutions. I got to go to this company to buy my support AI. I got to go to this company to buy my sales AI. And what if I want a custom AI? Okay, I got to go pay a development shop to build a custom AI. So now I'm on three different,
and then support it after the fact. Like, good Lord.
Yeah, and so it's, again, those two components, this idea of legacy, this albatross, this anchor of the past, and not cutting it off, is going to be a problem. And I think companies are going to spend money, and they're going to get value out of it because AI is powerful, but they are going to hit a brick wall. They're going to hit a brick wall that says, oh shoot, we probably should have thought of this from an AI first mentality. We probably should have thought of this from a holistic. I've got multiple agents that are, that I'm going to have to deploy. So at some point I have to choose a platform, right?
Yeah. Well, to one of the things too you always bring up, there's a higher likelihood of having more than one agent deployed at some point, right? So do you already look at your business and say, well, God, we've got 10 different pieces of software that we have to use, and this sucks. So if we're already looking at maybe having 10, 20, 30 different AI agents, how many pieces of AI software or AI platforms or AI tools are we going to have to buy to do all this in? It just becomes like unbelievable.
And everybody does it differently, and everybody has limitations. I mean, I think we always say this, but it's, one thing at Raya that we kind of our core to our vision and mission is just be common sense. Like, do common sense. Like, this is not a technical problem. This is a human evolution problem. Like, what we need to do is we need to think everything needs to be thought through a lens as if these are employees. When you build out AI agents, these are employees. And so would you only give one employee access to the internet? Like, just as if, like, would you only buy a support AI for support person, right? So think of it that way. It's like, no, you want all of your employees, all of your roles in your business, and even beyond that, to have access to this amazing technology. So by de facto, you're going to have to do it. Now, there might be a quick fix here. Like I said, 18, 24 months, quick buy here. And maybe people are experimenting. Maybe they're playing around with it. And again, there are some really great solutions out there for those specific point use cases. But you're going to find, everybody's going to find themselves at this crossroads at some point. And then the second point that I think is important to understand is that, when you think about, 5 to 10 years from now, okay, and you think about what is going to be the most valuable asset that you have in your business. Now, if you were to ask that question, 20 years ago, people might say, my website, right?
Yeah.
That's an obvious answer because, Amazon or mobile app, Instagram without a mobile app,
depending on the industry,
is worth nothing. Amazon without a website is worth nothing. So now think about those companies. Those companies were born out of the internet. They were not Walmart converting to Amazon, right?
Right.
I think we're in the same evolution here. I think that companies have to understand that probably the next generation of great companies are going to be AI first. So it doesn't take, again, common sense. If you're in a business today and you believe that you are going to be in this business in the future, and you want to be competitive and you want to maintain your leadership role, just look at history. Like, you're sitting there as Walmart and you're saying that I'm going to continue to dominate, even though there's right now an Amazon building out AI first solution that's going to compete with you. And it's going to come to market in the next 24 to 36 months. So you either have two choices. You can sit around like Walmart did in 1996 and be like, the internet's a scam. And I went on a website. Never catch on. Yeah. I went on a website and I went on Amazon.com. It was gray background. It was all Lyft justified, and they only sold books. They're never going to compete with Walmart. This is where we are today. It's like, you're overcritical, naive. Oh, I asked ChatGPT, or I asked AI, or I deployed an AI agent. It got the answer wrong. This is stupid. What are we doing? No, the most valuable asset in 5 to 10 years, guaranteed, is going to be whatever the AI model that you're going to create and train for your business, that's trained on the proprietary capabilities of what you have and your team's knowledge, and the way that your team leverages that model to deploy multiple agents. The companies that get to 100 to 1,000 agents first are going to win. Now, certainly the ones that are AI first mentality are going to get have a head start because they are all in. So it's really about these legacy guys saying, you know what, if we have an AI first mentality and we start taking what we have and all the knowledge of what we have, so that's the difference. So Amazon had to go hire a bunch of people that used to work at Walmart to teach them how to do logistics and how to do shipping.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
What we're dealing with today is the legacy companies, the companies that are operational today, they have all that knowledge. They have to kind of get all that knowledge into an AI model so that they can actually leverage that to increase their business. And I know this is a little bit of a tangential point outside of platforms, but
that's what that's the entire podcast is about, though.
But that's what it is exactly. But that's the tie-in, right? If you want to do that, if you are logistically saying, okay, Rich, I believe you. I need to take a common sense approach. I need to be competitive in the 5 to 10 years, and I need to be AI first mentality, even though I'm a legacy business. What do I do next? Well, get on a platform, start getting all of this amazing knowledge into a singular model or multiple models that are proprietary to your business, and start deploying agents at as fast as you can to, even if it's small, if it's small little things, tasks and roles. What you're doing is you're retraining your brain and retraining your corporation to embrace an AI first. And you can't do that by buying third-party, out-of-the-box, single-point solutions, because you're not forcing. That's just like a half-ass maneuver. That's like Walmart deploying a shitty-ass e-commerce site, but not really believing in it. Like, not really going, we really need to change the way we do logistics. We really need to be able to. We
did it, but it's not really working. It's like, but because you mailed it in.
Because Amazon won, not because they had more products than Walmart, not because the pricing was better than Walmart. It's because they got products to my door in a day or 2 days or 3 days.
Yeah.
And for free shipping. That's it. So if Walmart in 96 would have took it serious and said, hey guys, I think actually a lot of people are not going to come into our stores. They're actually going to buy on the internet, and we have to figure out how to do this shipping thing. And we actually have a leg up because we have Walmarts literally everywhere in the whole United States
and everything. Yeah.
So we need
got
to
our
shift
warehouses already good.
Exactly. We should shift our stores into warehouses, create a much more efficient shipping system, and really try to beat Amazon to the market with this whole free shipping and next day shipping. But they didn't. They waited 10, 20 years. And by that time, so the point here is
Walmart's not hurting, but
they're not necessarily hurting. But
Amazon wouldn't have been able to get that foothold.
Walmart's the only one sustained because obviously they have such a. There are people that still want to go out, but like think about all the non-Walmarts that are gone. All the other companies that used to be like the mom and pops, all of them, everybody that used to exist in some form or fashion, the localized version of Walmart, are all gone because they ate the world. So, yes, it sounds like platform. When we say AI platform, it sounds technical. It sounds like you're getting into this whole. It's not. What we're saying is there is a solution out there that can get you into an AI first mentality, quicker, better, faster, that both your developers and your business stakeholders will love, and that gets you to market it takes what you currently have as assets, AIifies them, and gets you to market faster. And that's the winning strategy, and that's the common sense approach that we pitch. Yeah.
There we go. Well, thanks again for joining us on this episode. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button to stay in touch. Also, check out our Substack for more content, which will be linked to this episode to continue this discussion. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care, everyone.
Welcome to the show, where air takes the flow. Leah Rich on the mic.